Every month for 3 years, Robert Chen ordered the exact same birthday cake from Sweet Dreams Bakery, small vanilla with pink roses and Happy Birthday Dorothy written in purple frosting. Maria Santos thought he had a very lucky wife with 12 birthdays a year, until the day she discovered that Dorothy had been gone for 3 years, and Robert was celebrating her birthday alone because forgetting felt like losing her twice. As Maria sat across from Jimmy Fallon in the Tonight Show studio, her hands still moved as if decorating cakes and arranging pastries. Muscle memory from 8 years of creating sweet moments for customers who trusted her to make their celebrations perfect, never knowing that some of the most important cakes she made weren't for parties. They were for preserving love. Maria Santos, 29, smoothed her dress nervously as the studio lights illuminated her face. She wore her best black dress, the one her grandmother had sewn for her quinceañera, and her hands bore the permanent flower stains and small scars from years of working with hot ovens and sharp decorating tools. For 8 years, she had worked at Sweet Dreams Bakery in suburban Phoenix, a family-owned shop where 3 generations had created cakes for birthdays, weddings, graduations, and every sweet milestone that marked the passage of time. Tonight, she was here because a video of her interaction with a regular customer had touched millions who watched a bakery worker become something much more important than someone who just decorates cakes. "So Maria," Jimmy said, leaning forward with genuine warmth. 8 years working at a family bakery. That must be like being part of everyone's celebrations, right? Maria's nervous energy began to ease as she found her voice, her slight Arizona accent warm with the rhythm of someone who genuinely cared about her community. "You know, Jimmy, people think bakery workers just make cakes and cookies, but we're really memory makers. I've decorated first birthday cakes, wedding cakes, graduation cakes. We're part of the happiest moments in people's lives." The audience was immediately engaged, understanding they were hearing from someone who truly understood the sweetness of human celebration. "What's the most rewarding part of working in a bakery?" Maria's eyes lit up with the joy of someone who found meaning in bringing happiness to others. "The faces, Jimmy. When someone picks up a perfect cake for their child's birthday, when a nervous groom sees his wedding cake for the first time, when grandparents order a welcome home cake for a soldier returning from deployment. We don't just make desserts, we make moments that families will remember forever." Jimmy nodded, clearly moved by Mariah's perspective on her craft. "You're like an artist whose canvas is celebration." "Exactly, and you learn to read people. You can tell when someone's ordering a cake for a milestone they're nervous about, when they're trying to make up for missing. Last year's celebration, when they want everything to be perfect because it might be the last time." Jimmy's expression grew more thoughtful. "That last comment sounds like there's a story behind it. Is there a particular customer who taught you about making moments perfect?" Maria's hands stilled in her lap, and something in the studio atmosphere shifted. The easy conversation took on a weight that everyone could feel. The kind of gravity that comes when discussing love, that transcends loss. His name is Robert Chen. He's 74 years old, and for 3 years, he's been my most regular customer. Every month on the 15th, he orders the exact same cake. The studio audience was completely attentive, sensing they were about to hear something profound. Small vanilla cake, 6 inches, with pink buttercream roses around the border, and Happy Birthday Dorothy, written in purple frosting. Purple was her favorite color, he told me. The cake always had to be perfect. No smudged letters, roses all the same size, the ribbon exactly centered. Jimmy found himself leaning forward, completely absorbed. At first I thought Dorothy was the luckiest woman in the world. Imagine having a husband who celebrates your birthday every single month. I used to joke with Robert about how spoiled Dorothy must be, and he would just smile and say, "She deserves to be celebrated every day." Maria paused, her eyes filling with memory. "After about 6 months, I started noticing things. Robert always paid in cash, counted it out very carefully. He always came alone to pick up the cake, and he always asked me to write the date on the box, even though he was picking it up the same day." The studio was growing quieter, everyone understanding that this story was heading somewhere deeper. "What made you realize something was different?" Jimmy asked softly. "It was a Thursday afternoon in March, about a year ago. Robert came to pick up Dorothy's cake like always, but this time he seemed confused. He kept asking me if I was sure the writing was right, if the roses were pink enough. Then he asked me something that broke my heart." Maria wiped her eyes with a tissue. He said, "Do you think she'll like it? Do you think she'll remember that I remembered?" And that's when I realized that Robert wasn't just buying a birthday cake. He was buying a way to keep Dorothy present in his life. The audience was completely silent now, understanding the profound nature of Robert's monthly ritual. "So, you started to suspect that Dorothy might not be there to enjoy the cakes?" I didn't want to pry, but I was worried about Robert. He was getting thinner, more forgetful. Some months he'd come in and order the cake twice, forgetting he'd already placed the order. Jimmy stood up from behind his desk, driven by an instinct that had nothing to do with television production and everything to do with recognizing something sacred when you hear it. "What did you do?" I made a decision that went against every customer privacy rule we had. I followed Robert one day after he picked up the cake. Maria reached into her purse and pulled out a small photo, worn from handling. I watched him drive to Sunset Memorial Park, walk to a gravesite, and sit down on a little folding chair he brought with him. He placed the cake on the headstone, lit a single candle, and sang "Happy Birthday" to Dorothy. The audience began to stir, not with restlessness, but with the kind of emotion that demands expression. Dorothy had been gone for 3 years, Jimmy. 3 years of monthly birthday cakes, 3 years of celebrating someone who couldn't celebrate with him. Robert was keeping her birthday alive because forgetting her birthday felt like losing her all over again. Jimmy walked around his desk and sat on the edge, eliminating the barrier between them. How did you feel watching that? Heartbroken and inspired at the same time. This man was spending probably $50 a month, money he clearly couldn't spare, to maintain a tradition that only mattered to him. It was the most beautiful and the saddest thing I'd ever witnessed. Maria looked at the photo, which showed an elderly man sitting beside a grave, a small cake with a single candle placed carefully on the headstone. I realized that I wasn't just making birthday cakes for Robert. I was helping him keep his marriage alive. The audience rose to their feet, not in orchestrated applause, but in spontaneous recognition of something profound. They weren't clapping for entertainment. They were bearing witness to love in its purest form. Jimmy stood up and turned to face the audience and cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where grief is often something people are expected to get over quickly. Maria Santos reminds us that sometimes the most important service we can provide is helping someone honor love that continues long after loss." He turned back to Maria. "What happened after you discovered Robert's secret?" I made another decision that probably broke more company rules. The next month, when Robert came to order Dorothy's cake, I told him it was going to be a special cake this time, on the house. Maria's voice grew stronger as she continued. "I spent hours on that cake, hand-piped roses, custom purple frosting that matched exactly the purple dress Robert had shown me in a photo. And I wrote more than just "Happy Birthday, Dorothy." I wrote "Loved and Remembered Always" in the most beautiful script I could manage. Jimmy looked at the photo with profound respect. How did Robert react? He cried right there in the bakery. This proud, stoic man just broke down. He said no one had acknowledged Dorothy's existence since she died, that most people acted like mentioning her would make him sadder. But I understood that talking about her, celebrating her, was what kept him connected to 50 years of marriage. Maria opened a small notebook, revealing pages of cake order notes. After that, Dorothy's monthly cake became my most important project. I started adding little touches, her favorite flower piped in frosting, song lyrics that Robert said she loved, even a tiny frosting version of their wedding photo one month. Jimmy slid off his desk and knelt down beside Maria's chair, understanding that some moments require you to meet people where they are. What did this mean to Robert? It meant he wasn't alone in remembering her. For 3 years, Robert had been the only person on Earth who still celebrated Dorothy's birthday. Having someone else care about making it special, someone else who understood that she still mattered, gave him permission to grieve and love at the same time. Jimmy reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his business card. But this gesture felt different from all the others. It felt like a recognition between two people who understood service in its deepest form. "Maria, I want you to have this. Not because you're a guest, but because you understand something that every person in customer service needs to remember. That sometimes the most important order isn't what's written down, but what's needed by the heart." Maria took the card with hands that had decorated thousands of cakes, hands that had chosen compassion over policy when it mattered most. You know what Robert taught me? He taught me that my job wasn't really about making cakes. It was about making sure that love gets celebrated, even when the person you love can only celebrate from heaven. The show ended differently that night. No desk pieces, no games, no comedy segments, just Jimmy and Maria talking about love, about the profound impact of honoring someone's grief instead of trying to fix it, about how the most ordinary businesses can become extraordinary when guided by understanding. 3 months later, Maria wasn't fired for giving away free cakes. She was promoted to head decorator and asked to start a memorial celebration program at Sweet Dreams Bakery. The program offers discounted cakes for people celebrating the birthdays and anniversaries of loved ones who have passed away. Understanding that grief doesn't follow calendar schedules, the viral video that brought Maria to The Tonight Show was actually taken by another customer who witnessed Maria presenting Robert with one of his special Dorothy cakes. The video shows Robert's face lighting up as he sees the extra care Maria had put into the decoration, and it ends with him hugging Maria and saying, "Dorothy would have loved you." The episode became one of the most watched Tonight Show segments in history, not because it was funny, but because it reminded viewers that heroism exists in the choice to honor someone's love story, even when, especially when, it's a story that can only be told by one person. Maria still works at Sweet Dreams Bakery, but now the shop has become a gathering place for people navigating loss. The Dorothy Corner is a small seating area where customers can sit with their memorial cakes, sharing stories about the people they're celebrating. It's become a community space where grief and love coexist, where people learn that remembering isn't something you move past, it's something you move forward with. Robert's monthly cake tradition continues, but now it's supplemented by a growing community of people who understand that love doesn't end with death. The bakery hosts monthly celebration of life gatherings, where people bring photos, stories, and of course, cakes dedicated to people they miss. The photo Maria showed Jimmy sits framed behind the bakery counter, not as a sad reminder, but as a testament to love that refuses to be forgotten. Next to it is a handwritten note from Robert. "Thank you for helping me keep Dorothy's birthday alive. Some angels work in bakeries." Jimmy learned something that night that changed his entire approach to late-night television, that the most powerful stories aren't always the ones that make people laugh. Sometimes they're the ones that remind us that we all have the power to be part of someone's love story, even when that story includes chapters of loss. The Tonight Show continued to entertain millions, but now it also served as a platform for recognizing that every business interaction is an opportunity to see beyond the transaction to the human story, to understand that sometimes the customer who seems the happiest might be the one who needs the most kindness. Because Maria Santos taught Jimmy Fallon and millions of viewers that true customer service isn't about following company policies, it's about understanding that sometimes people aren't just buying cakes, they're buying ways to keep love alive. That the most important decorations aren't always made of frosting, but of compassion that honors the sweetest parts of human connection. Dorothy's birthday still happens every month on the 15th, and it always will, because Robert and Maria proved that some traditions are too important to let die. Last month, Robert brought his grandson to help pick up the cake, teaching a new generation that love is worth celebrating, no matter who's there to blow out the candles. The Sweet Dreams Bakery has become a model for businesses nationwide, showing how small acts of recognition can transform commercial interactions into meaningful human connections. Maria's approach has inspired other bakeries to create memory lane programs, where customers can order cakes that celebrate people who can no longer celebrate themselves. The memorial celebration program that Maria initiated has expanded beyond birthdays to include wedding anniversaries, graduation days, and other significant dates that people want to honor even after loss. Each cake becomes a small act of rebellion against forgetting, a sweet reminder that love transcends physical presence. Robert's story has been featured in grief counseling programs as an example of healthy grieving that includes celebration rather than just mourning. Mental health professionals now recommend the Dorothy cake tradition to clients who are struggling to find ways to maintain connection with deceased loved ones. The bakery's Dorothy Corner has become a pilgrimage site for people who have seen Maria's story. Visitors often leave mementos, photos, and notes about their own traditions that keep love alive. Maria has written a book titled Frosting and Forever, with proceeds going to grief support. Every cake Maria decorates creates connection.